All right, there we are. Okay, thank you everyone for joining today. This charter review should be the last of a kind of comprehensive review. The next meeting will be with the rest of the council to review the complete red line that we've done, and then we can begin the process of actually putting together the resolutions that will be required for these proposed changes. So we're starting at Article 9, personnel, and then going on through the rest. The good news is that we've gotten through the major hurdles that we needed to overcome in making adjustments to this charter. Did want to update you, Ms. Ruff, on the conversation that we had with the council regarding how the mayor would be elected and then what the ward composition would be. We had our work session and we got a consensus, and what we agreed was that the mayor would be selected from amongst the council, the 7 council members. So how the election will work is that there will be 7 people who will run for council. And then once those 7 people are elected, the 7 elected council members will then choose amongst them who will be the mayor. And that is consistent with how we do the president's role. And also, this was determined previously, we would not have the mayor done every year. So that first time that the mayor is elected, that person will serve for all 4 years as the mayor. The other the other question was, since the 7 council members are not all at large, should the selection of mayor be restricted to just those council members that are at large or not? And it was determined that that would not be the case. So even if someone is like myself is representing Ward 3, that person could still be chosen to be the mayor for the city. In addition, for the ward representation, we agreed to keep it as is. 1 ward representative from each ward, and then 4 at-large members. So that's our update, and the charter will be updated to reflect that accordingly. So we have now starting on, sorry, do you have any questions on that? Or any comments? Nope. Okay. So Article 9, personnel, Section 901. Council Vice President, I do feel like we made changes to Section 901, or we talked about making changes, but when I checked on E-code, the language that we have right here is the same. So I started to update it based upon what I recall our conversations being in terms of the selection of personnel, where the city manager, with the approval of the council, shall appoint the heads of all offices, departments, and agencies of the city government as established by this charter or by ordinance. I think that makes sense that the city manager would, identify, recommend who those people should be, and then the council will approve them. Is that consistent with what your thinking is, Council Vice President? You're on mute.
Sorry. I said, yeah, I was trying to look for the resolution that we did, the charter resolution.
Yeah, I know it's not reflected. So I looked on E360. It's not there. It's still right now, Section 901 reads just like how it reads on this Word document. I can't, unfortunately, for on E-code, I can only do a PDF. So I wanted it to be in Word so I can redline it.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, the city manager
Yeah,
has the
of the council, right? And then here, where it's talking about all subordinate officers and employees of the offices, departments, and agencies of the city government, I took out the word appointed because they're not like appointed, they're hired, right? There's a hiring process for them, and then they can be removed. I put by the city manager and the respective department heads because It wouldn't just be the city manager hiring every single employee. The department heads should be involved in that, and they also should be involved in any recommendation for removal. Now, I don't believe, and it doesn't say that here, but I just want to confirm, I don't believe the council has to weigh in on that. So I don't believe outside of the department heads that the council should be involved in the hiring and the removal of employees.
But I think, that was done, I mean, maybe it could be written differently, but I mean, I thought that, in the event that the personnel did not agree, then what was said, and I don't know, that it would be, they could come to the council for a hearing type thing. You know how, what happened with Mr. Taylor?
So my personal opinion is I just don't think that's the right thing to do, because that's going past their department head, going past the city manager and coming to the council. And
I agree with you. Like I said, that's the way it was, and I'm, for changing some of the things, or some of the things, I guess it worked for that time, or that was the best they could do. So, we can change it as you have would suggest, and of course, again, we take it to the council.
well,
But
actually,
I
there's
think,
no change, because this section right here doesn't say anything about them being able to appeal to the council.
yeah, I think that might be in the personnel handbook.
Okay.
Okay, so, I mean, yeah, because I think as much as can be, eliminated from the responsibilities of the council as it pertains to personnel and, administration will
Mhm.
be fine, because, legislators should legislate, not run the city
Ms. Ruff, did you have
like
an,
we have been doing.
Ms. Ruff, did you have an opinion on that? I saw you came off of mute. You know what? I'm gonna take my camera off because I think that's what makes this thing kind of go unstable.
Well, I was wondering, I can't see on my screen that one section that we're talking.
Can you hear me, Ms. Ruff? Okay, because I didn't know whether it was me still or was it her.
Yes. No, I think we're trying to get back to that language because I'd like to, I mean, I can talk while we're trying to do that. One of the things I'm wondering is you are moving to, that having a council manager. And oftentimes when you look at that structure in the personnel, in regards to personnel, I should say, you will see that the department heads are often hired by the city manager. Sometimes there's a notification required of the hiring to the council. But I think what you're proposing here is that the city manager will bring their recommendation for the department head to council, who will appoint each of the department heads. I just want to make clear that I understand what it is that you want to do here.
Yes, can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I think when I have my video on, it just takes up too much bandwidth. So yes, that's what we're saying, that the city manager will, for the department heads, appoint them and have the council approve them. Now, if you're saying that I don't know if it's best practice, it just sounded like you were saying that typically in that, this form of government, the city manager would kind of have that authority to do it and not require the approval of the council. I personally would prefer that because again, we have a city manager to manage the affairs of the city. I feel like the process of including the council for approval is a little onerous. And would prefer that we be removed from that, but that's how it currently is. I don't know, Council Vice President, what do you think?
Well, I think, that's the way it is currently, but we have to, take in consideration that we were in another government, a form of government.
Yeah.
Now, if the city manager, and we had an elected mayor, but the city manager, we're in a different form of government. So I think that, that we should be able to, excuse me, we should be able to change that. And it should be justifiable because of the fact that we are, on another form of government.
Okay, that's fine. So I took it out. So that the city manager will, so now it reads, the city manager with notification to the council shall appoint the heads of all offices, departments, and agencies of the city government as established by this charter or by ordinance. All office, department, and agency heads shall serve at the pleasure of so we should change this, right? Not the council, but the city manager.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I would say so, and then just, I mean, we might get a pushback, but hey, I think at this point, we have to, I think what we can continue to use as our basis of, while we doing things is, again, we would like this because of the form of government we were in. Now, because of the form of government we're going to, it would just be more justifiable. I mean, we shouldn't be in all of this.
Right.
I mean, not
Right.
saying I'm gonna be there next time, but the council should not be in all of that.
Right. All subordinate officers and employees of the offices, departments, and agencies of the city government shall be hired and removed by the city manager and respective department heads in accordance with existing rules and regulations, as well as in any merit system which may be adopted by the council. That would be the personnel manual.
Yeah, may I also, I'm sorry to interrupt, but may I also suggest to you that this is a change that you're making, and it's going to require us to then, once the charter is revised, to take a look at your code. You should look at your code, and you should also look at your personnel regulations, because they're all going to have to be revamped in order to reflect this change.
Correct. Okay. So in section 9, clerk to the council, there shall be a clerk to the council who shall be appointed by the mayor with the approval of the majority of the council, who shall serve at the pleasure of the council. The clerk shall, I don't think we need to change anything else. I don't want to read it, other than where it says president of the council, change it to mayor.
Okay.
I missed that, Erica, what was you, changing?
Just where it says president of the council, changing it to mayor. There is no president of the council anymore.
You go back to the phone to do these. Okay. Majority of the council, okay.
And I think this should say, instead of it should say city manager. The city attorney shall be the legal advisor of this connection as may be required by the council or the city manager with approval from the council.
That's what most say, but also I want to point out here, we're going to have to change the reference to Maryland Court of Appeals, because the last election, there was a referendum question, and they've changed it to the Supreme Court of Maryland.
Okay. Merit system. The city may provide by ordinance for appointments and promotions and administrative service honor and fitness. And this is what you were referring to, Ms. Ruff, that we need to make sure that our code is aligned with.
Correct.
Okay.
And I took a look at that merit system language, and it's pretty consistent with other jurisdictions' language, so.
Okay, great. Employee benefit programs. I think we need to change anything there.
Well, the only thing about the employee benefit program is whether or not you want to be a little more expansive. So for example, some jurisdictions, instead of saying participate in hospitalization or other forms of benefit or welfare programs, I can't speak tonight, will say something such as what they're talking about, like hospitalization, retirement, and they'll kind of name a few of those benefits. The question is whether you want to do that.
I don't think we should, because it's whatever the ordinance is going to reflect it that.
Okay.
Public ways and sidewalks. I mean, I look at this as seems all pretty standard, unless Miss Ruff, there's something that, you know,
Just a couple of tweaks if you're depending upon your answer. So the term public way as used in the charter refers to these items. And then control of public ways is the city has control of all public ways in the city except such that are under the jurisdiction of the state highway. Are there any county roads in your jurisdiction?
I don't county roads.
Mhm.
Yes, over at Wilmore Town Center, like I believe Ruby Lockhart is a county street.
Because you might want to add there under the jurisdiction of state highway or Prince George's County,
Okay,
because you're not going to be responsible for those. You don't want to be responsible for those.
okay. Yeah, they definitely are. Okay. Yeah, I guess this probably didn't apply at the time that this charter was done, because I think the only county streets are the ones here at Wilmore Town Center.
Okay.
Okay. And then what about the public ways and powers? Are these pretty standard?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And it would seem the sidewalks are as well. I think if we are going to change anything related to the sidewalks, that's going to be in the code. There has been some discussion around that, so. And there's no reference that, you know, like we don't need to change anything because it's not mayor or, you know, president of council or anything like that.
Right.
I mean, I'll just keep scrolling until you tell me there's somewhere we need to stop.
Okay.
Is it still the circuit court of the county?
I'm sorry, which section are you on?
In the appeal section? I feel like this was
Yes.
it
Yes,
was on the
yes.
ballot. Okay, circuit court of the county. Okay, still the name.
Mm-hmm. So if I can ask you to, where's my next comment? I'm sorry, I should be working from yours, but I have mine up where I have various notes.
That's okay. That's okay.
So acquisition of acquisition, possession, and disposal,
Where is that? It's section, which one?
1101. Did
Okay.
I jump too far ahead? I'm
No,
sorry.
it's fine. It's fine. We need to move
Okay.
along, so.
Okay, it's pretty standard. There might be one or two words I would insert.
Okay.
And I can send those to you. They're just, you know, where it says condemnation or otherwise and may sell, leave. There's just a couple of little things I'd add
Okay.
to that. And then condemnation, it is pretty broad and it's fine. I'm sorry.
I didn't say anything.
Oh, I thought somebody did. I apologize. And the reference to real property article is still correct. So
Okay. So the condemnation section, in the city buildings, and then general provisions. Oh, okay. I take out here the mayor because no one is going to be like sworn in and affirmed as that. When we are sworn in, we'll all be council members. We would not have yet selected who the mayor is.
But when the mayor is selected, that person will be sworn in as mayor, right?
I don't know. Will we do that?
Because what you're describing, I think, is the process that the city of Greenbelt uses. And so they have a general election and then they elect from amongst themselves the mayor, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
So,
That's the
and I think that I would like to just touch base with them now that you've decided that that's how you want to do it. Just to talk to them, their attorney probably, about how that plays out. And to know whether or not there are things we need to tweak, additional things we need to tweak now that we've decided that's how we're going to go.
Okay, yeah, that seems fair because this is what I recall where the clerk of the circuit court came. And so once we appoint the president of the council, like the clerk of the circuit court doesn't come and kind of swear them in again. So that's why I was thinking we would take that out, the mayor, because at the point that the clerk of the circuit court is coming, all 7 council members are just council members. No one has been identified as the mayor yet.
Right.
Okay, so if we'll wait to hear what you have to say on what Greenbelt does.
Okay. Because you bring up a good question as to how do they do that, right? So.
Yeah, because we were thinking it was more like just ceremonial to say, we just choose a person and say this is the mayor. Okay, so what about official bonds or any of these sections? Did you have notes on these?
Let's see.
Let me just put a thing here.
So who shall be bonded? You have in your charter now the treasurer and such other officers or employees of the city as the council or the charter may require. I did not see where the charter actually requires anybody else to be bonded. Normally, it would be anybody who has access to money, who, maybe it's a cashier, assistant treasurers, the city manager is often bonded. So that would be the question as to who would the city want to be bonded.
Okay. I think that's in our chart, in our code though.
Okay, so then if we address it in the code, then maybe we should add here as the council as may be required by ordinance of the city council or something to that effect as well. But maybe we can get there with just as the city council may require. I just want to make sure that we cover that. So let me see if I can pull up your code right now. While you can continue to look at other things if you want, and let me see.
I think these pieces are so like where we would just be leaning on you to know if we
Okay, all right, that's fine. And usually, like I said, it's anybody who's gonna have the opportunity to touch money for the city, so.
Okay. Did you have comments on like the enforcement and penalties or any of the other sections?
Enforcement and penalties, I do know that the references to the law are incorrect.
Okay.
Because the Article 23A is no longer exist. So it's now local government article of the annotated code of Maryland. And so for 1204A, it should be section 6101 of the local government article. And in B, it should be section 6102.
I missed it. Section,
6101 of the local government article of the annotated code of Maryland.
okay,
B should be section 6102 of the local government article of the annotated code of Maryland. And section D should be 6105.
I think this is in what you were saying, but I think that before we get to the place of finalizing the charter, we can be looking at the code and the personnel manual.
Okay.
Okay. I don't really know what separability is, so do you have anything to weigh in on there?
That is correct. It needs to stay there.
Okay. Okay, so now this is probably where we will have more to say. So on establishing the things from time to time, it's just the council. I guess it should be the city manager as well.
With respect to the boards and commissions,
Or do you think it should just be the council?
I think generally it's going to be your council that's going to create a board or commission.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so from time to time, the council may establish boards, commissions, and advisory committees. So the members of any such boards. May establish, how can we shorten this? From time to time, the council may establish boards, commissions, and advisory committees. The members of any such boards, commissions, and advisory committees shall be approved by the council.
Mhm.
Board, commission, advisory committee shall be by the city.
Oh, just for clarity, okay, so so the mayor is the mayor, but that person would still be considered part of the council?
They are acting in the president of the council right now.
Huh?
So let's go back up to the,
So it says from time to time, the mayor and council.
let's go back up to the section on the mayor. This will be, we should
Oh,
be
you got,
clear on this. The mayor is, the mayor and the current president of the council, those are synonymous terms.
okay. But I saw something where it says the mayor should submit to the council.
Anywhere it says
Okay,
that we're taking out, it just says the council, the mayor and the council.
okay, got it, okay.
I think there's just a little lag on mine. But yeah, that's what we're updating in the language. Right there, like, it's not that the mayor will appoint the.
I guess my question is, or I'm just trying to get an understanding, is that there'll be a mayor and then there'll be 6 council members. So when we as a council, and that mayor was appointed, was elected as a council, so how would that, how would we separate that? It would be just the 6,
There's no separation.
any duties that you're saying the council would do.
The mayor is not gonna have powers apart from their role as a council member. The only thing that they are doing is serving as the chair of the council. So it's not like the mayor, like the president of the council right now can't establish a board, commissioner, or advisory committee on his own.
Okay, but I thought with this form of government that the mayor, I thought I heard say that the mayor can vote, but the veto rights were gone.
So Angela, what we have in this structure now is there are 7 council members. One of those members will be selected as the chair of the council. Their title will be mayor. So instead of their title being president of the council, their title will be mayor. They will be a part of the council. So there is no person who will now have veto rights. We've addressed all of that in the mayor section at the top.
Okay, okay, I guess, yeah, okay.
May I also interject here, if you don't mind? We had talked about Greenbelt having a similar setup as to what you're describing that Glenarden would like to do. In Greenbelt, though, I want to make sure you understand that all members of their council are elected at large. So every voter votes for 7 candidates.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'm looking for.
So just let me comment on that point, that we did discuss that, because I personally have concerns, or, just kind of think I don't think it's the right approach to have the mayor selected amongst council members that are not at large. So, because my thinking is, and I'm a ward representative, and I know that the legislation that I pass is for the good of the entire city, but only, and I'm just, rough estimate, only 1/3 of the population voted for me. So if I were to be elected as mayor, that means 2/3 of the city didn't even weigh in on whether I should be in office or not. Which if I were not on this council and I was kind of a citizen apart, I would think that that wasn't right. But we discussed it at length, and the council consensus was that they did not want the mayor to be elected apart from the council, because one of the options was people can run for mayor, and then you have 6 council members. The council decided they did not want to do that. They wanted to choose amongst, and then in choosing amongst, the council was of the opinion that the mayor did not need to be someone who was elected at large. Because that was my very specific question. Should the selection of the mayor be limited only to the council members that are at large?
Okay. And so I found the provision in Greenbelt. So how they do their election, if you will, of the mayor is at the first meeting following the regular municipal election, the council chooses one of its members as mayor and shall also choose one of its members as mayor pro tem.
Yes.
The mayor shall preside at the meetings of the council and shall exercise such other powers and perform such other duties as are or may be conferred and imposed upon him by the charter and ordinances. He's recognized as the head of the city government for ceremonial purposes, by the courts for serving civil process, and by governor for purposes of military law.
Yeah, and I think that's what we put. I think, that's the language that we added as well. I'm just don't want to
Okay.
scroll up because it'll take us a minute to bring it back down. But that's the
But-
effect, the role of the mayor.
Right,
Is-
I just wanted to just to kind of give you an idea of what their provisions are, because they're the closest government I know that does what you're looking to do. Let me say
Right,
that.
and I think that, and we can talk about that when we have that meeting with the full council, because maybe, what you just articulated, because I think the structure is the same, but the biggest difference between what we're saying and how they do it is that all of their people are at large.
Mhm.
Right,
So, that, but I don't want to be on here advocating for my position, but I do, we did discuss it, whether it
Mhm.
should be someone who is at large or in everyone, well, not everyone. The consensus was that it could be someone that was not selected at large.
okay.
I would say, just, like you said, going back over what was brought up by the attorney and just rethinking it, because even after that, I thought, I mean, the mayor should be at large. I mean, why can't, I mean, we could just, I know that some of the citizens do want to have a ward, but, again, thinking back, with, during the history of Glenarden, we've always pretty much had the same government. So with that said, being that it is changing, maybe we should be, I mean, everybody should be at large. So I don't know whether we can revisit that or it's a done deal.
No, it's not a done deal because it was only a consensus. We were just wanting to get that consensus so we could know what to put in preparation for our meeting in March with the full council.
Mhm.
We'll review it. So we'll have the opportunity to discuss it again. And I think with the other context of, we don't, and the argument might be, we don't have to do exactly what Greenbelt is doing, which is true. But I mean,
Right.
again, I'll just make the point that I think when we're talking about someone being the mayor, and yes, they may be ceremonial, but there are those duties that they would have in terms of, being that point of reference or contact for the governor, all that stuff. I think they, at a minimum, should be elected by the majority of the city.
Yeah, and I mean, because I know once when we was doing that, I was talking to Jocelyn Rout, and so that Bladensburg has it too. She said basically, they're kind of the government the same as we switching to, but it's still a lot of governments are still, you can still consider them being like hybrid because they're not all of them is not alike. So we don't have to be. I mean, we still can kind of customize, um, if you will, how we want it to be. But yeah, but being that it's a consensus, I think maybe we might need to bring that back up again. So what you're saying, Erica, is that you think you feel like it should be six.
Yes, so there's kind of two levels to it. My initial stance is that there should be people who say, I want to run for mayor. And that when people go to the ballot box, they are voting for that person to be the mayor. And then they are voting for 6 council members. I do understand that, the comments from the council that in terms of like, we didn't get a lot of public feedback, but the public feedback that we did get was around the public wanting to be able to choose their mayor. And I think that would be the path of least resistance in terms of the expectation and the experience of the residents, Because I do think, honestly, if we take this away, I think that this will be a big challenge for us. And it could potentially be something that is petition, that warrants enough people to petition it to change that. But we can discuss it, when we have that meeting in March and just review it again. And we can use, maybe what we do in the meantime is gather the examples from the other municipalities. But again, they're just examples. It's not, it's not something that we have to do.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So then we're now at the appendix. Councilman Herring has joined us now. We're on to.
Yes, sorry about that.
No, that's okay. We're on to the slum clearance. I don't really know what to say about this or if we need to make any changes. I didn't know if this was something that was specific to Glenarden or
No.
if this is something that is typically in,
Mhm.
well, then I don't know that we need to do anything to it unless you
So-
have.
Yeah, that
I-
was originally, was that about slum clearance, you said?
Um,
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was put in there during urban renewal,
Mhm.
back when, in the, 60s, 70s? So I don't really know if we really need that. I think we had to put that in there because of what we were doing, and we were getting funds and stuff from the federal government. I think that's why that was in there. That was put in there during urban renewal. Because they were
Well-
selling off a lot of land, I think.
What is interesting is if you look at the end of your appendix there for the urban renewal, in the notes, it gives you a good sense of what happened. So the General Assembly granted urban renewal powers to the city in 1963. And then many jurisdictions, after they had this, let me even back up. So what happened is the General Assembly really kind of amended, if you will, your charter and put it in there, right? And so a lot of jurisdictions since then have taken it out. There was an Attorney General's opinion that's referenced here that basically said you can't take that out, that the General Assembly dictated that it be in there. So you don't have the authority to take it out, but they did recommend that you make it an appendix. So I do have the rest of the citation for that. I think it's 232. I suggest we just fill that in and leave it the way it is.
Okay. All right.
Also, local government article of the Annotated Code of Maryland also has a section that addresses urban renewal authority as well.
Okay. Well, then it seems like we have our actions to follow up on, being reaching out to Green to determine how they, or if they swear in the mayor, whoever is selected to be the mayor amongst the 7 of them, if that gets sworn in again by the clerk, the circuit court clerk, or if, it's just decided amongst the council and that's it. So that's one. And then you were going to give us the references that we needed for, I think we changed them already. We did them here. I think you have one other, if there's any other references that we needed to put in here.
Okay.
Around the, you were going to expand the terms where it was around the condemnation. And
Yeah, there's just a couple little words I would add, nothing.
And then, I think we're good. So what we need to start doing, I'll send out not the cleaned up, but the full red line version. And then start preparing for the conversation that we're gonna have on March. Hold on, let me get that date. March 21st.
March 21st, okay.
Yeah. And that is with the full council to review what we've, all of the edits that we're proposing for the charter.
Okay.
And so, Ms. Ruff, would that be, Mrs. Ruff, would that be something that you would take the lead on in terms of like summarizing what the changes are, any rationale for that, or?
That is certainly, I'm happy to do that if you want me to. So
Okay.
it's really kind of your call.
Okay, yeah, that would be great. If we can get that summarized in that way so that we can then, when we meet with the council, definitely want to get that to them in advance so they can kind of see what changes we're proposing, the context for it. And I guess we can leave it to your discretion as to, which changes you want to summarize. I would think if there was a letter missing from a word, we don't necessarily need to call that out, but more of the substantive changes that are there. We probably just need to say once, like we change wherever it says, the council president to the mayor. We don't have to call out every single reference for that.
Got it.
Just kind of those high level things.
What time will that meeting be?
6:30, I think.
Okay.
Mhm. So I think we're going to try and do that meeting in person
Okay.
in the council chambers.
And by Zoom or just in chambers?
Typically it's, well, if all of us are in person, it would be televised. It would be but we can always make a Zoom option. I personally don't want to be on Zoom for that because you see what happens when we have these calls that like my connection is not that stable. I don't know why that is the only Zoom call I seem to have that issue with. But yeah, just to make sure it's clear and everybody can see and we can understand each other and just, get that knocked out. So great. So I think we're good for tonight. And we can offline kind of work out the schedule of when we'll have the materials ready for review by the rest of the council. And any next steps that we need to start doing in terms of preparing preparing the resolutions, preparing the ads, making sure that we have all those steps lined out so we're very clear. And I would like for us if we could get those steps lined out so that when we're speaking with the council at that March meeting, we're able to give them a clear vision of what's going to happen next.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do have a question on next steps. So Mrs. Ruff, you're gonna do like all the changes we're making, you're just gonna do a rewrite of the whole entire charter with all the revisions that we have, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
With the additions of the things we've talked about.
Right.
And so
Okay.
to that end, could somebody please send me a Word document?
Yeah. So I will send you this.
Okay.
I've been cross-checking it with the E-code one. I don't see any differences, but I'm also going to ask the council clerk if she can pull down that 361 in Word because it requires you to have some sort of login to be able to do that. Otherwise, it's only a PDF.
Okay.
Just so you have it, but yeah, other than that, if there are no other questions, I think we can adjourn.
Okay, the one time I come in late is the shortest meeting. Okay, great.
So we have you to thank, right?
I am kind of concerned about different charter changes that were done, whether they were not necessarily in this administration. whether or not they are actually, reflected, because in the charter, because I think we're so behind with getting things codified. And then even with Annapolis, when we, the one with the personnel, that still's not, hasn't been done, so I don't know how we, in
Okay,
doing that,
Yeah, we need to get with the clerk to submit those to E-code.
exactly. And what we should also do is have her send them to Mrs. Ruff.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay,
But
yeah,
keep,
because if they're not updated in E-code, she's gonna be pulling us stuff that was not amended.
yeah,
right.
okay. You're on mute, Mrs. Ruff. Mrs. Ruff, you're on mute. Were you saying something?
I'm just talking to myself again, right? So my apologies. I was just saying that I will make certain that the document that you send me reflects the changes that we discussed, and I don't know if you all recall, in the very, very beginning, we did get some information from the city clerk with some changes. And so I'll make sure that that doesn't affect what we're doing. So to the extent we're kind of amending and rewriting provisions, we'll be certain to incorporate that language as well,
Okay, perfect.
And then
if
we
there
have
is
to,
any.
and we have to work with, view the code and the, personnel manual.
So yes, once everybody agrees and the charter amendment is done and becomes effective, if you have one form of government pretty much now in your charter, your code and your personnel regulations are unlikely to be compatible with that now. So you're gonna wanna have a look at your code to see what sections and chapters are gonna need to be changed there as well. And then your personnel rules and regulations will want to conform to the changes you're making.
Okay,
Can everyone hear me?
now we can.
Now we
Yeah.
can, yeah.
Okay, well then if there's nothing else, we'll adjourn with those action items, those immediate action items. We'll follow up with the Word document. We will request that the council clerk sends any charter resolutions that have been passed already to make sure that language is incorporated and potentially amended based upon what we've discussed in these charter review committees as well. And Mrs. Ruff, you will prepare that revised charter as well as a summary of the changes so that we can have that information to review prior to the meeting on March 21st, which will be with the full council in council chambers with, Zoom for those who are interested in dialing in, as well as it being televised on cable.
I was trying to pull up a calendar, so let me do it this way. So, why don't I shoot to have try to have something to you all by that first week in March.
That would be great.
And that'll give you maybe a week or so to take a look at it. Then we can make whatever changes we need to make. And then we can have something that can be distributed for discussion purposes on the 21st. Or out of which we can make a PowerPoint presentation so that we can have everybody see what we're talking about.
I think that would be great.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, and have a great long weekend.
All right, y'all have a good night.
Take care.
Okay, good night. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.